Start video transmission. Okay, let's make sure it's working. Okay, I think it should be live. Testing audio.
Testing 1 2. Yep. Okay.
Yep,
Audio
we're
sounds
good.
good on my end.
We're good.
Okay. So, welcome everybody to episode 6 of Follow My Tracers. We are a gaming podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jim. And I'm also host. Oh God, I'm tired. Sorry. This is live. Welcome back. I am Jim. I am also joined by Figure 9, aka Tony, and also Harley. Gentlemen, how has this week been for you?
It's been good, man.
Okay.
Beautiful. Now, normally we ask what we've been playing. So other than the topic of today's video, I guess before Thursday, what have you guys been playing this week? Let's start with you, Tony.
I'm just going to quickly mention off the hop because the gameplay is running right now, and we'll get to the topic, but there are some spoilers in terms of the first hour and a half-ish of gameplay for Cyberpunk right now. So if you don't want to see what's on screen, then just tab out and listen to the podcast, and don't worry about actually watching it this week. We understand that people might not want to be spoiled here, but we do. That's our spoiler warning right now. So if you want to remain spoiler free, there you go. Aside from that, man, like I actually haven't been playing too much. I'm trying to remember what I even played this week. Like I played a bit of Fortnite. What's today? Today's Friday. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's been the topic of the week. That's what I've been playing. What about you, Harley?
Before that game came out, I was playing a little bit of World of Warcraft, doing that little free trial.
Oh yeah.
Just probably an hour here.
How's that been anyway? Has it been good?
That. Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing I remember from Battle for Azeroth. I didn't buy the expansion, so I don't see any of the new cool stuff. Just kind of like, a new server, new character. It's been pretty fun. I mean, Cyberpunk is out. I'm playing Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I think we've all been playing that pretty hard the last day, or hard enough anyway. So for note, if you are watching the gameplay for this week's episode, it is recorded on an original Xbox One. So if you're looking at the video, this might not necessarily reflect your gameplay experience when you play it, but it was my gameplay experience, just for reference point. Other than Cyberpunk, on my end of things, I started to kind of get the idea in my head that I'm going to start hitting my back catalog of games that I'm super backlogged on a little more. So I've been playing a little bit of South Park, Fractured But Whole, which I got relatively far in because I looked at my save file when I started it, and I was a good 9 or 10 hours in. And in reality, I should have just kept going with that, but I thought, well, I don't really remember what happened. It's been so long since I played it, pre-pandemic and all that. So I really had no clue what was happening anymore. It's and the game's super funny too, so it's not like I'm losing out replaying it or anything like that.
I've always wanted to play that game.
Other than that, yeah, it's really good, man. I highly recommend that to anybody. It's if you're a fan of the show, it's just natural because the writing's just as sharp and as funny and as really dumb as the show, but it's top notch. It really is. And gameplay wise, I think the combat system in general, not to go on a tangent about South Park, but the combat system in the previous game, the Stick of Truth, was more turn-based from what I remember.
Yep.
But this one's kind of like Final Fantasy Tactics. If you guys are familiar with that system, I don't know how to describe it. There's like a grid, and you can move around on a grid, and then your attacks have certain patterns that they can be totally straightforward, or they can do a line to the side. It's just a system like that. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's
almost
almost
super rewarding
like
too.
Fire Emblem, Harley. It's kind of like that if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, does Fire Emblem play like that?
Yeah, it's like a grid.
Oh, I had no clue.
Yep.
It's a grid,
Or,
but I don't think the attacks are necessarily the same.
No, not necessarily the same.
Kind
But
of sounds like a. It almost sounds kind of like a mobile game. Seen
yeah,
that in a few mobile games.
yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
reminds me of an old game
Or,
called Gladius. I don't know if you guys ever
I
played
was
Gladius.
just gonna mention that too.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite games.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really wish that game was back compat from the original Xbox to these ones, because man, that's one of my favorite games.
Was it on the Xbox as well? I thought it was just a GameCube.
Yep. PS2, GameCube, Xbox. It was out on everything.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think we should do an episode in the future of games from our, not necessarily childhood, but like games from like the previous consoles we owned. Like Gladius will be for you. I can mention not so nostalgically, but Battlefield 2 Modern Combat, stuff like that. But we'll get to that another day. So other than Cyberpunk launching on Thursday, to kind of jump into current events, before I get into, I guess, our big current event, is there any other news stories this week that caught your guys' attention to bring up? Let's start with you, Harley, if you got anything.
Mine was kind of what we were all talking about with game awards. Kind of the world premieres kind of debuted.
World
Stream. Yes. Something
Any ones
like
that are notable that you guys want to mention? I guess I was telling you guys before we recorded. Today's been crazy, so I didn't have time to brush up on the announcements for the Game Awards anyway. So if there's anything notable, we should bring it up here.
2 games, mostly 2 games caught my eye, and that would have been Warhammer 40K Dark Tide and Dragon Age.
Dark Tide is a
Dragon Age was
Sorry, go ahead, Harley.
Dark Tide looks. I was gonna say Dragon Age is just like a teaser. There wasn't much to it. Yeah, go on with Dark Tide.
Dark Tide is a Xbox Series X and S and PC exclusive. Funny enough, so it's a random exclusive game that you wouldn't think is exclusive, but it is.
Oh no!
How's it play?
know that.
Or do we know yet or no?
Yeah,
It's like Vermintide. The premiere, I guess, or was it a premiere? Was it a gameplay premiere?
yeah. First time we saw gameplay of it.
It plays
So,
like Vermintide.
how does that one
or
play, though?
It's kind of like it's like Left 4 Dead-esque.
Oh, okay.
It's like a team of 4. I think you go probably to like a little safe spot to safe spot.
Is that on Game Pass or
another
no?
thing was what was Back for Blood?
Yeah, I was just
Was
about to
that-
say. Speaking of Left 4 Dead type of games,
That
the
was
spiritual successor.
really
to
surprising.
Left 4 Dead.
I'm so happy about
Yeah.
that. I don't know about you guys,
That
but
looks really-
man, Left 4 Dead was probably one of my favorite games of the 360 generation. Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. Played so
Yeah,
much
we
of
so
that,
much
man.
played a lot together.
So really happy that it's the original developers making it. It's from the gameplay, man. It just looks like Left 4 Dead, right? Like it's
Oh, so
not.
there is game. Like I said, I didn't
Yeah.
watch anything.
Yep.
So is there
There's a
gameplay
little
in the
bit of
trailer?
it.
Yeah, they show a little bit of gameplay. Yeah, it looks and plays exactly like Left 4 Dead, just a lot nicer, and the zombies look a little different. But there's like the
Mhm.
kind of like special
Naturally.
zombies that have different abilities and stuff like that come after you. And cool enough with that game, it comes out like June. So June 2021, not that far to wait, and there's going to be a alpha that is playable, I think, sometime next week.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Yeah, I don't know if we get access to that. I'll need to look into that. But they also announced that alpha.
Oh, before I forget to mention this because I just thought of it now. What was that Xbox? Well, I think it was on other consoles too. But what was that game that was kind of like Left 4 Dead? Was it called Evolve, where it was like 4v1?
Yep.
Do you guys remember that game?
Yeah, Evolve. That's kind of like a Dead by Daylight. It's like a team of 4 against one person who's like a monster. They their mission, I guess, is to stop the monster, while that guy just kind of eats like a native wildlife to like evolve and become stronger.
Was that game any good? I think I had it, but I might have only played it once.
I think I played it once. It was pretty cool, but
Yeah, it didn't have any legs. From what I understand,
Yeah.
people said, yeah, it's cool, and then they kind of just stopped playing it.
yeah.
Definitely a really cool concept, that game.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might have been Turtle Rock as well.
Really? I didn't even know when I mentioned
I
it.
think it might have been. I might be wrong. In the comments, let me know if I'm wrong there. But it might be the same developer.
It was Turtle Rock Studios.
Was it? Yeah.
I just looked it up too. Yeah.
There you
It's
go.
on there.
Beauty. See, I do remember things. Just useless pieces of information like that.
Actually, another reveal, even though I said it wasn't brushed up, just hearing you guys talk about it a little bit, was the Perfect Dark reveal. So that wasn't a gameplay trailer. That was just like a early, we're in development teaser, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
CGI, kind of just like
That's what
a
I'm thinking of.
like a concept kind of like trailer, but it was cool, man. And that was probably the biggest bomb drop, aside from maybe the one at the end, depending on your viewpoint. But the Perfect Dark remake, it looks like a completely like ground up remake. Like it's not going to be like the first game at all, or even like the second game, made by the
So it's a
Initiative.
remake.
Yeah, it's not like a sequel or anything, from what I understand. Like
Oh,
it's like a franchise reboot.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, like made by the Initiative, which is Xbox's brand new first party studio they made from the ground up, and they've just been hiring really high profile staff for the last like 3 years since they've been made. I think it's 3 years, might be 2 or 3, but
It's not going to be their first game, is it?
it is. Yeah, it's their first game.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's their brand new studio made from the ground up. They have people from like a bunch of Sony studios, a bunch of Xbox studios. There's a bunch of people from Sunset Overdrive on there, from The Last of Us on there, from God of War. Like literally, like every single big game franchise, there's somebody on the Initiative who worked on it. So it's kind of like this super, like what's the word for it, Jim? And you'll know this. Like I guess super group, is that the word for it? For like a band that has a bunch of other people kind of like come together to like make another band kind of thing.
Yeah, so like a super group would be defined as like one I can think of that not a lot of people would know about would be Active Defiance. So you had Sean Drover and what's his face, Chris Broderick from Megadeth, and then you had I can't remember the guy's name, from Shadowfall, and then you had the singer from Scar the Martyr. So it's all pre-existing, like established, I guess, in a music sense, like pre-established musicians coming together to create a band or an album or whatever. But yeah, so it'd be like a super group studio, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and Microsoft, when they announced it, they called it quadruple A, which who knows what that means.
Nice.
But like we all know what AAA means in terms of like it just being like a big game from a big developer. Like this is going to be a big game. It's not going to be like a little Perfect Dark game. It's going to be huge. I don't expect it anytime soon. There was no release date at the end, so I would say 2022 sometime at the earliest, but maybe 2023, 2024. Like this is a while off, I think, before we actually see this. I don't think it's next year. Very exciting, man. That was Xbox's kind of teaser that they've been teasing that they were going to be at the Game Awards. That was them. Huge announcement, big announcement. Perfect Dark has been rumored forever from them, so this is it's good to finally know what they're working on, and I'm excited to see more.
So what about now, was the big reveal you mentioned earlier, was that for Mass Effect? Was that the one you were talking about?
Yeah, so Mass Effect.
Or was there a different reveal?
Yep, it was Mass Effect. So Mass Effect was the kind of the big kind of oh shit reveal. That was the one last thing kind of thing at the end of the Game Awards before the Game of the Year announcement. It was the trailer, and then it basically said Mass Effect is continuing. That's all it said at the end. So we don't know if that means it's taking place after Mass Effect 3, if it's after Andromeda. I don't know, but there is a new Mass Effect game coming out, which is that's exciting, man. I'm excited for that. Mass Effect is one of my favorite trilogies of all time.
It's one of my favorite games, and I don't want to say trilogy because if you listen to this show, and you guys obviously know this, I've only played the first one. I kind of started the second one, but I've beaten the first one multiple times, just haven't gotten around to the other two. No, for no real reason, just things get lost in the shuffle over time. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to playing through all those games, and eventually I'll play through all of Andromeda because I had started that earlier this year too.
Yeah, I'll get to Andromeda eventually, I think. Now that it's all patched up and it actually works.
Yeah. So what other reveals for stuff? Was there anything Call of Duty related?
They kind of just did like a sizzle reel for the season, I guess season 1 for Cold War, which showed
They
off the
showed
new
the
map.
trailer.
Yeah, it wasn't like anything.
Rebirth Island.
Yeah, it didn't really show like anything new, I would say. Nothing major anyways, I think, right, Harley? Like I'm not really thinking of anything.
No, I don't. I think it's everything we kind of saw and knew previously. I think they were just kind of like summarizing, maybe just re-showing it.
Yeah. I
So it's
mean,
not like anything we didn't already know kind of thing, right?
yeah.
I don't think so. Not that I remember.
There was a really surprising kind of like WTF announcement. I actually laughed out loud when I saw it, man. Harley, I think you're gonna know what I'm talking about here, but Arc 2.
Oh no, I know what you're talking about.
Arc
now.
2 is a thing. They're making a sequel to Arc,
Oh,
and
yes.
the main protagonist is Vin Diesel.
And I'm forgetting all these games. I forgot there's so many good games they showed.
There was a lot, but I was like, wait, what? And then like you see Vin Diesel, and oh my god, so funny. I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm like, is this real? And then like I'm like, this has got to be some weird Vin Diesel game. Like there's no way it's a big franchise. And then literally it was Arc 2, and I'm like, oh shit. Like Arc's a very popular game. So so funny.
I don't think I would ever would have guessed Arc from that trailer.
Me neither.
It looked so nice. Oh, it looked so good. And playing Arc, like you can tell it's a little derpy. I mean, you can see your character take a crap.
Yeah.
Stuff like you can see like rolling turds on the ground.
Do you think we'll be able to shit as Vin Diesel?
Oh my god.
Oh my god. I'm so interested.
Wait. So
it's
they're making a
something.
sequel to a crafting. So did Ark? And I don't know much about Ark Survival Evolved or whatever it's called, but was there narrative elements to that or no?
Maybe a loose one. But
Has either of us played Ark before?
played
I think
it.
I had it installed forever.
I've played,
I
but
played like the base game.
yeah, I don't know about anything but the story,
So
if
it's
there
kinda
even
like-
is one.
Kind of like Titanfall 1's kind of loose multiplayer story narrative they kind of had in there, not really type of thing.
Oh, I don't really remember much of a story at all. It was kind of just like you just like plopped on an island. Now go play. The thing.
Yeah, that's the impression I always got from it. But
I bet it didn't really have a story, man. Maybe in one of the expansions it kind of had a bit of a story.
But yeah, probably in the expansions, I would guess.
I was gonna say, like, it's surprising that they have this trailer for a game like
Yeah.
that, where now you got Star
know,
Power
right?
behind it. So
It's so
whatever.
random. Like,
Diesel.
why Vin Diesel? Like, where did that
Vin
come
Diesel.
from? So
I'm not
dumb.
complaining.
So funny. I mean, the fact that he's in it's like I'm interested. Like, I kind of just want to like,
Yeah.
what is this game? Like, why is Vin Diesel in this game? Ugh. But there was a lot of
Any
other stuff.
reveals from the
Yeah,
anything that wasn't like already kind of established, or any like new properties that you guys find exciting, or no?
Properties.
Like, there was that one
Like,
game.
oh, a trailer for this game.
Yeah, there was a new game revealed called the Callisto Protocol.
Oh yes, yes.
And that just looked like Dead Space to me. It looked super
Yep.
spooky, and like, yeah, that game looked cool. And that's coming out in 2022.
looked like Dead Space and CP kind of like melded together. Looks
That's
really
something we
good.
need is we need more Dead Space in our life. I kind of miss Dead Space, to be honest.
Looks like that, like a horror survival game.
Yeah,
I think that's what the developers were talking about in the interview too. Story driven.
yeah. And they
Very
said like
nice.
this is gonna be like the spookiest game, like the scariest game in a while. Like they're trying to make it really really scary, which I think is cool.
Hopefully it's not like jump scare scary. It's actually like
Oh, it probably will.
Oh yeah,
scary scary.
they'll toss them in there, but I agree. Like to me, like a game like Resident Evil 7 is like genuinely scary to me, because it's like there's not like there are jump scares, to be fair, but like that's just a creepy, like kind of scary game, you know. It's not jump scare, and it's not kind of like cheap scares. The whole situation is just scary. So like that's kind of what I'm hoping that they do. But I mean, it's aliens in space. I'm sure there'll be some jump scares.
Yeah.
Aside from that, there was also the new Smash Bros. Character revealed, Sephiroth. So that's cool. I kind of was hoping it was going to be Master Chief, but On that note, they did officially reveal Chief in Fortnite.
He
So
looks awesome.
yeah, so that pack is available now for anyone listening today or probably for the next few days. I think Kratos was in there for a week, so Master Chief will probably be in there for a week, maybe 2 weeks. But uh, yeah, the skin looks awesome. If you're playing on a Series X, you get a cool like matte black kind of version of it too, which is nice. The pickaxe is the gravity hammer, which is really cool. Your glider's a pelican, and you have this like little warthog emote that's pretty fun too. It's like the Dead Space one, but it's on a warthog, which is cool.
Nice.
And then there was a new Among Us map teased. It's like an airship.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of cool. Among Us is really, really fun. We're having a lot of fun with our own friend group on that game. So the more maps, the better, in my opinion. Flight Sim has been confirmed for Series X for the summer of 2021, and they showed a tiny bit of in-game footage for it, and it looks really, really good on the Series X. I'm so excited to play Flight Sim. That's gonna be cool.
Nice.
And I mean, other than that's kind of all I had for the Game Awards in terms of game announcements. There was a couple other ones. There were some smaller game announcements that are certainly cool, and I would encourage everyone to kind of look them up if you want to. There's a lot of articles and videos that you can find for them. None of them really interested me. So if you want to look at them, go ahead. They're there, but I didn't really think they were too noteworthy for us, anyways. So that's the
Okay, so
news.
before we move on to talking about some notable winners, because I don't think we'll go through all of them, or if we do, we'll just kind of keep our comments to like a minimum, maybe except for Game of the Year. Was there any other things you wanted to bring up, Harley? Or should we move on to the winners of the awards for Game Awards?
Well, that was it.
Beautiful. So the Game Awards, as mentioned before, were Thursday, and of course, along with all the reveals, they gave it awards to certain categories. So I think
I got a
we
list
should
here,
go through
Jim.
some of these. Okay, perfect. I was gonna say I have it up, but I think yours is probably a little more organized than I am right now. So let's go through. Tony, I'll let you kind of take control of this section then. Let's go through some of the winners for Game Awards.
Yeah. So I'll kind of skim through a bunch of these, and we can talk about a few of them. But I'll go through the ones that I have here. So best art kind of direction was Ghost of Tsushima. Best score and music was Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think that probably should have been Doom, but funny enough, when I was watching on Twitch, the whole chat like erupted when Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced for that, because they were like, "Wait, Doom," like, so everyone was kind of like, "That's kind of a snuff." But I mean, I'm sure the score and music in Final Fantasy VII Remake is amazing, but man, Doom is just next level. So I don't that was kind of disappointing to me. Games for Impact was Tell Me Why. Ongoing game was No Man's Sky. Interestingly enough, best community.
Say that surprised me too, and I read that
was
earlier.
a surprise.
Yeah, and I kind of get it because that game is completely different than when it launched. But at the same time, like, how could you look at that and then look at Fortnite, which is just doing something literally all the damn time? Best community support was Fall Guys. Best VR was Half-Life. Best action was Hades, and also Hades won the best indie game. Final Fantasy Remake won the best RPG. Flight Sim won best sim strategy. No surprise there. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 won best sports game, sports racing, which I thought was really funny because it's a remake. I actually really want to get that game, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Among Us,
pretty good.
it looks awesome. I mean, it looks like exactly like those other games, just like way more modern. But like, it's the controls are the same, the combos are the same, the maps are the same. Like, that's what I'm there for. So Among Us was a big kind of winner. They won best multiplayer and best mobile game. Best mobile game I could have guessed, but multiplayer is interesting because it went against like Warzone and stuff like that. So like Among Us, big win there for them.
It's also not technically a game that came out in 2020 though, which I guess is kind of my issue with it winning. Is it came out in 2018, but because it blew up this year, it starts getting nominations for stuff. And I don't think that's fair necessarily, but at the same time too, I mean, I look at us playing Among Us and it does bring us together. You know what I mean? Like, we do have a lot of fun playing Among Us, like consistent fun with it. Whereas there's nights in COD or Fortnite where, you know, we're getting our asses kicked and it's like, I really don't want to play this anymore. Like stuff like that. Whereas Among Us, I think we've been consistently like having fun with it anyway, from my point of view.
I think Among Us was a different game back in 2018. I don't think it had the multiplayer component like as
Oh,
much.
interesting.
Like I think that a lot of the new functionality for Among Us came on this year, so maybe that's why it was. I don't know too much about that, but when Among Us first came out, it was more limited in terms of who you could play with, I think.
Okay.
So maybe that's kind of why they're doing it. I agree though, technically it came out years ago, but um I think it's cool that it won best multiplayer over like Warzone.
Yeah.
Also, Call of Duty fix your game. But
Yeah, no guff.
maybe Call of Duty would have won if it wasn't such a mess all the time. But yeah, Among Us was a big winner there, and then The Last of Us Part 2 just absolutely cleaned up. It won Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, Best Audio Design, Best Performance, Laura Bailey as Abby, Innovation and Accessibility, Best Action Adventure. Almost every single category it was nominated for, it won, except for the what am I looking for here? Art design. That Ghost. It was nominated for that, but Ghost of Tsushima ended up winning.
He was also nominated for best score in music.
Yeah, you're right.
As well.
Yeah, it was nominated for those two, but otherwise it won basically everything it was a part of. That's interesting to me. Like, I'm sure I'm like I don't know, just like kind of from like the internet, kind of like what's the word for it? Outburst. I don't know, outcry about that game when it came out, and especially like the narrative and how it was kind of like why did you do this? Like this sucks kind of thing. Having not
Yeah.
played it, it's hard
All
to
the
judge it
negative
for
attention
myself.
it got.
Yeah, exactly. Got a lot of negative attention. And having never played it, I mean, I can't really judge it for myself, so take all this with a grain of salt. But I was kind of surprised it cleaned up everywhere. I thought it was gonna maybe win Game of the Year, maybe win a couple things, but almost everything it was nominated for, it won. I was really surprised.
Yeah, it was weird because Ghost of Tsushima was kind of like the opposite.
Yeah.
It was everyone was talking how great it was and everything like that. Yet that game barely on like anything.
I also thought it was really
Really,
unfortunate that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order had to be in this year's class. Because I think if the
Yeah.
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was in last year's class, it probably would have won some stuff. But that's a tough go, man. And you know what? Cyberpunk's actually in the same boat this year where it didn't make it into this year's awards just because of its release date. So it's going to be next year. So you wonder how many awards Cyberpunk is going to win because there's going to be all these other games that are going to come out after it now. And is Cyberpunk going to kind of like fall to the wayside kind of thing? I don't think it will as much as maybe Star Wars did, but it's unfortunate. I think that, I guess to switch topics a bit, I think Last of Us Part 2 is kind of like the game review site kind of gamer like game journalist kind of like darling kind of game, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean, where like a
It's
lot of them
almost
fell in love with it.
Oscar bait. It's
Yeah.
like when movies are made for the specific reason of we're gonna be winning an Oscar.
Yeah.
Obviously, The Last of Us is very popular to start with, so it's not like The Last of Us Part 2 was like a huge Oscar bait and like this brand new thing that all of a sudden won these awards. Like I think, in my opinion, just based off of like seeing how much it actually won, I think it's only just because the fan base for that game is so like rabid. At least specifically the first one, and I don't know how much of that, at least at this point in time, because it's been a little bit since its release. I don't know how much of that ended up seeping over into the second one. Clearly, a little bit anyway on the critics side of things, but I'd be interested to see and look up what people think of it now, kind of not in retrospect because it's not like super old, but just kind of like looking back, like was it really deserving of all the negativity, or were people just kind of like, well, like to kind of relate to something topical in my life, like I just watched the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and like episode 7, 8, and 9, and those movies are kind of famous for being very hated by a certain section, like a small section of Star Wars fans. So you only hear about the negativity, but there's got to be enough positivity to kind of go back to Last of Us. There has to have been enough for it to win all these awards. Like there must be a good game buried beneath what people are saying isn't a very good game. You know what I mean?
I don't think people's problems were with the gameplay or anything like that. I think it was just the narrative. Like I think they kind of, because again, having not played it, I think they kind of just did some stuff that really pissed off the fan base, because I think they made like I think it's Joel. I think Joel's like one of the most loved characters from the first game, and then they kind of just screwed him over and killed him in the second one, from what I understand. And people were like, "Why did you do that?" Like they kind of like almost like butted him out of the picture to make it about, I guess, Ellie and Abby, I guess, are the two characters. And again, having not played it, I don't want to sound like some Xbox fanboy. I'm like, oh, Last of Us sucks. I've never played it. I don't know. But I'm just kind of trying to understand what people are saying online. And I think that's kind of what I get from it. Either way, I'm not saying it's not deserving of any of these awards. It certainly is. But it's a little surprising to me that it mopped up on all these different categories. When there were games like Best Action Adventure, I don't know if it should have won that. Best Audio Design, I don't know if it should have won that. I don't know about Best Narrative either. Like, there's some things
compared to what it was nominated to. Like, I'm sure that it's good on its own.
Oh, yeah,
but compared to what it was up against, yeah, I can see what you mean.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, definitely surprising, but a lot of it was Game Awards were cool though. I mean, the announcements were awesome.
It was a good time.
It was a good show. Yeah, I thought they did a great job.
Yeah, I wish I could have watched it live.
Do we want to go on to Infinite Watch real quick?
Sure.
All right. We're going to
Absolutely. Take it away.
Infinite Watch.
Status report.
I had Chief say status report this time on the soundboard.
Oh, so I forgot about the sound effect.
Yeah.
You can play it again. I'll shut up. Hold on.
No. I played it through. You guys are good. So
Okay.
This week for Infinite Watch, you should really just go listen/watch our Wednesday episode, where we go over the big blog post, the big high-level update that 343 put out. It's a long episode, and we go through pretty in-depth on everything they're working on. I'm going to do a quick summary here for you guys, but I encourage you to go watch that episode if you want a more in-depth look at it. So Halo Infinite's confirmed to come out fall 2021. The team has done a lot of work on the visuals and graphics side of things. There's lots of screenshots of Spartans, armor coatings, a new look at a multiplayer map. Flighting has been confirmed for 2021, and that's a beta for people who don't know. And Joseph Staten, who came on the project in September, famously, has played through the game twice. He played through it twice in his first week. So in September, he could play through the game twice, meaning it was basically content complete in September. Which means they're basically spending this next year just polishing. So it was a big update. There's a ton of good developer interviews and a ton of good information on there. So I encourage you to go read the blog post yourself. And if you want to hear us talk about it, we have that episode on Wednesday, like I mentioned. So that is the Infinite Watch for this week. It was a big one though. It was I don't want to understate or kind of gloss over it. It was a huge week for Halo Infinite. So I encourage everyone to go look at that if you're interested. That's
Beautiful.
all I got.
So, the big topic for this week, no surprise by the title or the video you're watching, but Cyberpunk launched, for our time zone anyway, yesterday at midnight. So Thursday, December 10th. It was originally supposed to be April, then November, but now we have it December 10th. So, as I mentioned before as well, the footage being shown during the episode now was recorded on an original Xbox One. Is it technically called the Xbox One S, Tony? Or am I making something up?
That's the Xbox One. The Xbox One S is the slim, kind of white one.
Okay, just trying to clarify. So I have the VCR Xbox One.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Recorded on.
Yeah.
But we also have Tony, or Figure 9, playing it on Xbox Series X.
Yep.
And I think Harley as well, you're also on the original Xbox One, right?
On the original, yeah.
So my surprise, I saved. Oh, I can't believe I'm even saying this. So I'm going to kind of tell a short story. And I mean it's short because I'm going to make it as brief as possible because I want to get to Cyberpunk. About my journey with Cyberpunk so far. So I got it, pre-ordered for Xbox One. And I played through the first few hours in one sitting. Super impressed. There are technical hiccups, and because it's an older system, everything's kind of downgraded significantly. At least in my eyes, it's downgraded enough where it's pretty noticeable for me. So I recorded footage for this episode, forgot to turn off the nudity, tried to edit the video. That didn't work. Both files went corrupt. It was a nice night, and I got so frustrated. It totally killed like my mood for it. So the next day I woke up, recorded what you're watching now. Then afterwards, I was like, you know what? I'm going to see if I can get a refund. So today, I tried playing through a little bit more before I asked for the refund. And I was like, I can't play this. Like, for my expectations of what Cyberpunk was going to be, I guess in my point of view, I couldn't play it on the Xbox One to totally get the experience I was hoping for. So I took a chance and I asked for a refund, and I actually got one. Like, and literally, I'm not exaggerating. 30 seconds later, it went through when it said it would take about 72 hours potentially. So my platform of choice, I'll be playing Cyberpunk on, and my impressions is on PC now because I have a laptop that can actually run everything on pretty much higher ultra. So my mood totally shot up when I started playing it on PC because my perception of it totally changed. But we'll get into that. So just gut reactions, fellas. How are you guys enjoying Cyberpunk so far? Let's start with Harley.
Um, Gameplay wise, I'm pretty enjoying it. It's fun to play. Like the quick hacking system's pretty fun. Um, yeah, I agree with you on the visuals. Like I was looking at some people's like reactions as well, and they were like like comparing it to like 720 to like 1080p. That kind of stuck in my head. It's like it's definitely not as um, clear or crisp. Mind you, I've turned off the film grain. I turned off depth of field. I turned off motion blur so I could kind of get like as clear picture as I could.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes like I saw in the gameplay there, some of the textures don't load in. They're just kind of like blocky.
Or they take
Um,
forever to load in or whatever.
yeah, and then there's a lot of loading screens too.
Oh yeah, that was one of my big
Yeah,
issues too. That kind of
there's a
made me want to
lot.
make the switch.
I
So
wanted to talk to you
like,
guys about that actually because I I wanted to hear how the loading was on the original Xbox One.
um, it's trying to think of a game to compare it to.
Is it
Sonic
like
the Hedgehog 2006.
is I don't
You
know
never
about
played
that,
it.
man.
I think it's
Is it bad? Is it as bad as like Red Dead Redemption 2 or like GTA?
Yeah, it's like Red Dead Redemption 2 kind of. Well,
I
I don't
wouldn't
want
say
to say
it's
it's
that bad.
horrible, but it's not great, but it's not Red Dead Redemption 2 level.
Okay, so like
It's
is
it's
it
not there, but it's close.
is it like a minute? Is it 2 minutes? Is it 30
No,
seconds?
no, 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 no.
I
It's not so much the duration. Partly yes, but it's like how many there is. Like I've noticed like sometimes like you'll have like a really short conversation with someone, so you'll load into that conversation, talk for like like maybe a minute, and then it's another loading screen, and it's just like it keeps happening.
That's
I've
interesting.
also noticed like just driving like in the world, sometimes like depending on how far I go, or I don't know what this is, but sometimes it'll just like freeze, like as if it's loading. Like it's like can tell it's like loading the world beyond kind of thing.
yeah.
So I'll have to wait maybe like 10, 20 seconds. Like not a lot, but like it's not technically a loading screen, right?
So the thing that
It's
I found, the first big one, it wasn't on. It was because I recorded once before the video shown. So my first time I was playing it and recording, the one thing that happened like two three times in a row, um, on the Xbox One version. I don't have any. All my opinions for the PC, I'll save kind of near the end because I've only played a couple hours on PC today because I just got it like a few hours ago. But regardless, the one thing I found, you guys have tutorials on? I'm assuming, right?
Yep.
So there's a part near the beginning, not saying anything story wise, but you have to like shoot out a car window. So there's a tutorial message that would come up to tell you, how to lean in and out of the car, whatever it is. But that
Mhm.
message, it kind of froze my game loading. It happened like because I died the first time because I had my difficulty up a little higher at first, um, but it kept happening where I would die, reload, and then it would load back in. But the message, it would take a good like 30 seconds to load, and I'm flicking the stick and
Oh,
pressing
wow.
buttons, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like, is my game crashing? And then eventually it would come up, and I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, but what? So eventually I turned off tutorials and then turned it back on after just that section. But it was like, man, like I don't
I
know.
didn't
I
get
I,
that.
I don't want to sound negative, but I want to get all the gripes out of the way first because I have a lot positive to say about this game too. So just I know because Harlan's experience is similar. What kind of issues, if any, have you been kind of running into on the Series X, which I guess is technically the Xbox One X version?
Yeah, so that's all really interesting for me to hear. The loading and everything, guys, because I don't really experience any of that. I have the game installed on the internal SSD on my Series X, so load times are quick and they're not often. So that's very interesting that we're getting two completely different experiences there. When I load, it's a couple seconds and it doesn't load that much. I haven't had to like load into a different section in the open world or anything like that. It basically only loads when I'm like what's the word for it, like coming in and out of like an experience, almost like the brain dance, for example, or something like that. So
Like a cinematic.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, when there's a cinematic or like there's a big change in the game, like, but from a kind of fluid perspective, there's no loading. It's there's not enough for it for me to remember it, if that makes sense. So when it does happen, it's quick and it doesn't happen much.
Quick.
So that's certainly very different.
That's good.
Yeah, it is like I said, it is worth noting that it's the Xbox One X version of the game, so it's not the next gen patch. So, um, but interestingly enough, there is a 60 FPS mode on the Series X. So they do have that little like extra toggle that you can turn on, and I've just been playing with the 60 FPS mode on. I tried with the like kind of performance or like the fidelity like graphics mode, and like I didn't really notice that much of a difference on the visuals. Not enough for me to sacrifice it from 60 to 30. So I'm playing on 60 FPS. There aren't. I haven't had too many big issues with the game in terms of glitches or pop-ins or anything like that. There's definitely some. Like sometimes I've walked into a room and there's just like floating weapons. I'm like, oh, okay. Um,
Oh, yeah, I've had a couple of stuff like that.
yeah,
I've had part I mean, mind you, these are just like little fun things. They're not game breaking.
yeah,
Yeah.
I did have one. I had one crash. I had one like to home crash. But other than that, I haven't really had any crashes. But sometimes, yeah, you walk into a room and like a barrel like just falls
yeah.
of like the air or something.
It's kind of funny.
It's like setting in or something.
It's like
That happened in my tutorial part.
it
So
reminds
like
me
when
of
you're doing
like
the melee tutorial, man.
reminds me of
You go
Skyrim.
on, Tony.
It reminds me of Skyrim in that sense, and like
Yeah.
Fallout, where it's
Oh
just
my
like
god, Skyrim on
like the
launch.
Bethesda game,
Game
like the
kind of
Bethesda
reminds
games.
you.
It's just like they're so big and
Yeah,
they're so
exactly.
glitchy, but they're so good, so you love them anyways. As long as
Yeah.
it doesn't like
Right.
ruin your save or crash your game every 30 minutes, you can
Oh,
kind of deal
like a
with it.
corrupted save.
Yeah, and I feel like if one of us had that, or maybe our opinion about this game would be a lot different. Luckily, we haven't had that yet.
Yeah, that'd be. I don't think that happened.
I had
I think I feel like that's pretty rare.
I think so,
Or
but
it
I
should
read
be.
online that PlayStation and Xbox people were getting things like that
Oh,
though.
oh no,
Not
really?
widespread, but it was, yeah, people were like, yeah, my game crashed
There?
and then my file was corrupted. So,
Oh, so that could have happened to me.
could have. So I think what you need to do to avoid that is to kind of have multiple saves going, if you know what I mean. So like
Yeah, yeah.
have your main one and then have
I
one that
only
was
have
like,
one,
yeah, exactly. Have one that's like 30 minutes ago
like a
kind of thing.
backup.
Yeah, have your backup save. I did have one mission where I actually had to reset because the progression was glitched. So I wanted to mention that.
Oh, really?
It's one that I don't want to say how early or how late because I don't want to spoil it, but um, yeah, it was somewhat recent in my playthrough where I basically needed to search a body to get a key, and the key wasn't there, so I needed to basically go into load last save, and luckily the game had a bunch of autosaves, which I really appreciated. So
Yeah, it saves very often, which is appreciated.
yeah, so it had like like 10 autosaves from the last like 2 hours. So I was playing. I'm like, oh, sick. So I just kind of like went back to the beginning of like the section and kind of just redid it. It was annoying, but ultimately I'm glad the autosaves were there. At least I didn't have to go back to when I last saved. That would have really sucked.
There was one thing I noticed too, with the Xbox One version, and Harley, I don't know if you've run into this, but when when you have a conversation, because there is an option to like skip through lines in a conversation, but are you ever in a conversation and then the line will cut off like 3/4 of the way through, or you'll get into like a dialogue choice that's timed, and all of a sudden the bar is like already halfway down, and you're like, oh my god, whoa, like what's this? Like I didn't even have a chance to like
Oh,
process what was happening. So that happened to me, not on this recording, but on my previous one. It happened, and like no story spoilers, but you're talking to somebody, and like their animation for me kind of jumped forward a bit too, so I kind of missed the first half of the first sentence they said, and I was like, oh, like what's going on? Like I'm totally like not lost, but I didn't know really know what was happening, which it's not the best feeling because all of a sudden like there's more dialogue choices and you're like, oh, like I don't even know what you said at first, like so how can I like make a choice here? But
mm,
I like just again, and most of my opinions are just from the Xbox One version. The one thing that was a big reason for me switching to PC as well was the frame rate. Now, I don't know if it's 30 frames. I'm like,
It's
there's no
less.
frame counter.
It's less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's times where you really feel it. It feels pretty sluggish. Not just because it's playing on like a controller compared to like a mouse and keyboard, but just the frame rate. Like when if it slows down a little bit, like it feels like pretty. I don't know. It just. I'm trying not to sound negative, but
It's okay to sound
I have
negative
like
about it.
no, I know. I don't want to like rag on it though, just because it's technically the oldest hardware it's come out on. So obviously, it's so the best comparison I can make to my experience playing this game and then going to PC was back like 7 years ago, I want to say, or 6 years ago when Wolfenstein: The New Order was coming out. And I think I've told this story on the show before, but I'll make it brief. I bought the 360 version first because this was before I got my Xbox One, and there's a lot of low res textures on the 360 version of that. And I got like an hour in, and it was kind of partly the reason why I got an Xbox One, other than like the Master Chief Collection. I was like, I can't play this game on the 360. Like, there's very blurry, like obvious textures and like lots of pop in and stuff. And like, I can't do it. So when I got the Xbox One version of Wolfenstein: The New Order, it was day and night. Um, but back to Cyberpunk, because I don't want to dwell on other stuff too much. One thing I noticed too with the Xbox One version, and it's on the PC version as well, to be fair. So this isn't like it's exclusive to one thing, but lots of like people walking through doors or like people appearing in like the middle of your car, like after you go in and out of a building. I had a guy standing in the middle of my car, and I was like, well, if I move, it's gonna say that I ran him over. So I just like tapped the trigger, and like sure enough, I had the police after me. And I'm like, well, like it's not my fault. Like this isn't me doing this. But did you run into that, either of you guys, or no?
Harley?
I'm trying to think. I don't think I've seen much of that, surprisingly.
And it's funny actually. Before you guys go on, I noticed a difference in the first time I recorded to the recording being shown. I had different issues on both recordings, which I find kind of interesting. So it's not like the issues are consistent with every playthrough. Sometimes the audio for certain cutscenes would clip, and other times it was smooth. Other times it would slow down quite a bit frame rate wise. Other times it was playing perfect. Like I don't. It's a big game to take in, and I don't fault CD Projekt Red at all. Like a game like of this scope is, it's gonna be like you said before, like a Bethesda game. Bethesda games are notorious for struggling when they first come out, just because I guess of the sheer scope of it or whatever. But any other like abnormal or abnormalities that you can think of, Harley, with the version that we
Before
initially
that,
played?
Supperfish in the chat says essentially if you have a Gen 1 console, you're gonna struggle a bit.
Absolutely.
And Halo is probably going to be the similar. I
Yeah.
think that's a really good point. These games that are coming out now, they are meant for the newest gen, right? They're meant for, high performance PCs or the new gen, and those like me who are like kind of stuck behind are gonna start feeling it. I think it's
Unfortunately.
kind of just starting with Cyberpunk.
Yep.
I mean, even like you were saying, Dark Tide is exclusive to the new stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know when that comes out. I don't know if I'll have a new Xbox by then. So I might have to just try it on PC. I don't think my I too have a gaming laptop. Mine's pretty old. I don't think it'd be able to run this on maybe like on medium. I mean, like at that point, I'd want it on high or ultra.
Yeah.
I will say it makes a world of difference. When we get to the positives, I'll talk about how my mood totally changed. But yeah, it's like night and day from going from Xbox One original to PC. Like it's crazy how much different it is. At least graphically and like the frame rate's up obviously, but like the game's still the same across all the platforms. It's just a matter of performance, really, right?
Yeah.
But there is an issue on PC that's not on console that I'll talk about too. Actually, I guess I should talk about it now. We're talking about the negatives. One thing on PC that didn't happen to me on Xbox, both times I played, was going through Night City. The trees pop in, but like you can see the trees like through walls and through floors. Like it's really strange, and the lighting is like it's so weird. Like you'd have to look up a video to see what I mean, but it's such a strange like technical issue. I've never seen it in a game before where there's like a tree behind a building. The tree will pop through the building on your HUD almost like it's just floating there. It's really weird.
Weird.
But that's the only issue I've run into on PC so far. No graphic pop in, no slowdown yet. Like that's the only issue, but it's interesting to me that that's only on the PC version in my experience.
Yeah, I haven't had anything like that. Nothing at all. I will say that
Nope.
the performance on the Series X, and I guess because there's that 60 FPS mode, like the performance of the game hasn't been an issue for me. And I could see, even just watching this video, Jim, and kind of hearing you guys talk about it, I can see how that would be really, really frustrating. And I think that's a really good point, Superfish and chat about Halo might be similar. It's hard to say, man. Like Cyberpunk's obviously a very different game compared to Halo. Maybe Halo can handle it a little bit better. But yeah, I think
I think in Halo's case, it would depend on art style.
I
Depends
think
on like
now it
how
might.
much, how how demanding the game is. If Infinite, not to get too much into it, if Infinite's open world, I think it will have some of these similar issues, perhaps.
yeah, I think
Maybe not so much like glitch, like um maybe the weird glitches, but like more like the performance, like maybe it feeling a little bit sluggish or textures not being as good and stuff like that.
I think what'll end up happening with Infinite is they're gonna try to hit it at 60 frames on everything it comes out on, and then 120 on PC and Series X. But on like the original Xbox One, what they'll end up doing is the game will kind of scale down to 1080p/720p. I bet. And like a lot of like the extra things, like some of the nice lighting and stuff like that, won't be there. It'll just be more basic.
Yeah, pretty much like yeah.
I think Halo does
Again,
have a
like you were
bit
saying,
of an
yeah.
advantage in terms of it maybe running better on the old systems. It's a different kind of game, but it being open world, like yeah, exactly, Superfish, exactly. Since it's
Yeah.
open world, there is a chance it'll perform the same. I think with Halo Infinite, I think what's good about it is that the game is done, and they're just polishing. So now they have a year to try to make this thing work good on everything it's coming out on. So to me that's encouraging to me that they have a lot of time to optimize. So hopefully that means when it comes out on everything, it's gonna run good on everything. At least
And,
run like for me, like if I'm playing Halo Infinite on an Xbox One, I want it to run well before it looks really good, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I want it to hit. I don't want big frame rate drops. I don't want anything like that. I'd rather have a nice, smooth, consistent frame rate than than super crispy visuals. That's just me though.
He's saying in the chat he's worried his PC won't be able to run it.
I think you'll be okay.
I think you'll probably be okay.
Maybe not on like ultra kev, but
where Halo kind of beat Cyberpunk in this sense. I think Cyberpunk has a bit of it's more demanding. Like just looking at some of the gameplay, like it's a lot to like put a whole city in, especially with the verticality and like all the lights, all the little like details. You're probably not going to get as much in Infinite. It's more so going to be like mountains and trees and grass.
Sure, yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot less demanding on that side.
If anything, sorry, go ahead.
I think my prediction for Infinite's Xbox One version is it's going to look like the initial reveal we had in the summer. I think that'll be closer to what the Xbox One version might look like compared to the next gen version.
Yeah,
which wouldn't be a bad thing. Like it would look better than it would look better than Cyberpunk right now, to be honest. Like from the gameplay I recorded.
Sure.
So
yeah,
and actually kind of looking at the gameplay now, what's going on. In my first recording, there was this weird flicking it was like this like edge of a shadow that kept flicking behind this character in this conversation. On my first time recording it, there was this weird flicking light thing, and it went on for the whole time, and I couldn't figure out what it was. But on this time, it wasn't doing it. So
there you go.
A lot of inconsistencies.
But what were you going to say, Tony, before I cut you off on Halo Infinite?
I was going to say we should talk about Halo Infinite.
Oh. But Kevin has a good point. It's good that there's a beta so that you can get an idea of what your PC can and can't run with it.
Yep. The flighting will be key.
You have a pretty good PC, so
the flighting will be key.
If you're in that group, hopefully it comes to like public.
I think it'll be pretty widespread. Initial rings will be small. They'll open it up more and more, and eventually they'll have like a public weekend, I think. So, but I think that's enough on Halo Infinite for this week, because we already had a big episode on Infinite on Wednesday.
Is there any more negatives for Cyberpunk? Do you want to get into the good stuff? The positives?
I think just one last negative I have, and this goes across all versions, is clearly this game demands a lot. There's a lot going on all at once in this game. It kind of reminds me of if you guys have played Skyrim and done mods for it. There's a mod that was pretty popular for a bit when I had Skyrim on my Xbox anyway. That was no load times, but it had the potential to like really chug your game, but there'd be no load times going into cities or buildings or anything. And not saying that that's the case of Cyberpunk. There are loading screens here and there. But I think that a game this demanding, as on like an old gen console, like in the gameplay and in your experience, Harley, it's natural there's going to be issues, and I could have overlooked it, you know what I mean? But I think just the biggest negative with me was not even really have to do with the game. Good night, Kevin, by the way.
No need to apologize, man. The Halo Infinite point was a very, very good point, so don't worry about that.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
What was I saying again? But anyway, so just the fact that like I don't want to be too negative, because all my negatives have to really do, except for the tree thing I mentioned, have to do with running on old gen hardware, which, like you mentioned, wasn't necessarily developed for. So having to downgrade stuff, it's natural things are going to happen. So that's all I guess I'll say is, there are issues. There's no getting around it, but I wasn't playing it the way that the developers kind of were hoping that most of the people in the world would play it, I guess.
I don't think that's
the best way I can put it.
I don't think that's a good way to put it. I don't think that's
it's wrong, but that's the way I'm thinking, is like, obviously it was developed and it looks super nice on PC and like Xbox Series X, or your version from what you were saying. I guess I don't know. I'm losing my point. One of you guys should probably talk. I sound too negative, but I'm not trying to be.
I think the point for this, man, is that the game wasn't ready to come out on previous gen consoles. I don't think.
Thank you. That was the best way to put it.
It's certainly ready on PC. Glitches aside, it's it's there, and it's there on next gen. The game is not properly optimized or 100% ready for the previous gen consoles. There's a way to get it there. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's a way to get this game to operate at 30 frames per second.
We might get future patches.
We will. And actually, on the patch note, this is kind of breaking a little bit. They're putting out a hot patch, I think this weekend. And a lot of it.
Mention this too.
So there's a bunch of like specific quest fixes that they're gonna do, which I don't really know them because they're further in the story. But there's a lot of like specific glitches they're gonna fix. There's a lot of visual things they're gonna fix, performance and stability. And on console specific, they're actually doing some stuff for the base PS4 and Xbox One as well to improve reflections, eliminate smudging, and just kind of also do a couple other things. So like the game, in my opinion, the game just wasn't ready for the limelight on previous gen, and unfortunately they had to release it all at the same time. So the developers, it's important to criticize what we've been criticizing, and developers certainly just needed more time on a lot of things. But the game did have to come out eventually, so I'm glad it's out. Now they need to focus on getting this game to work well on everything that it's out on, I think starting with the previous gen consoles, because unfortunately that's what most people are going to be playing this on. Most people are going to be playing this on PS4s and Xbox Ones. So, and the game doesn't work that well on it. It works, from what you guys are saying, it runs and it's okay, and the game is still, we'll get to it, the game is still great, but it just doesn't run well, right?
Yeah. Actually, and there's one other thing I forgot to mention. An issue, anyway, a small one. So I noticed when I was in the car and I tried to switch camera, I would tap it and it wouldn't work. But if I held it for like 15, 20 seconds, sometimes the camera would go third person for the car. Sometimes.
Oh, really? That's weird.
That's another issue I noticed too.
Only
and
on
PC,
only on console?
It hasn't happened on PC for me yet.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't have that issue.
But do you drive first person mostly, or do you go third person?
Go third person.
I go third too.
So, yeah, again, it's unique to my version on my Xbox One. Was I would hold the button and nothing. Sometimes I would hold the button and get out of the car, nothing. Like I just if it was delay or whatever. But that's good. Then my negatives on a positive note before we get to Harley's conclusion here. I'm glad that they're going to be updating it and that they clearly care. You know, they want to fix it. They want to make it fun for everybody. So why wouldn't you? Harley, what do you guys say?
About
just like any before we move on to the positives, are there any other things you want to mention about the negatives? You want to
I'd
summarize stuff?
I'd like to get to the positives. I think we've been harping on it pretty hard.
You know what?
Okay.
It's one of those things where you criticize the things you love, right?
Yeah, and that's the best way you could put it, because I'm going to move back from my chair to say this, but I fucking love this game. Issues aside, I am so in love with this game. Oh my god, dude. Just
yeah.
And it comes like most of my love comes from a place where I grew up playing Deus Ex quite a bit, and playing all of them as they come out. I see a lot of Deus Ex influence in this game, and that excites me a lot, because there's in my head before this, there was no other game that kind of came close to doing what Deus Ex was doing so right in my head. And this game is like the one that finally came out where I can go, this is so worthy of standing up with Deus Ex and Cyberpunk games. I'm not saying there aren't good ones, but the least are the ones I've played. This is like as close to that level of like quality that I can think of, at least in recent years.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was playing it, I kind of got a Deus Ex kind of vibe. Some sense.
It's hard not to, because it's kind of like they're both cyberpunky, right? So
yeah, and I don't know if Deus Ex was the first one to do it, but it certainly popularized it when the first one came out.
Yeah,
and like I guess maybe Shadowrun, maybe on like the SNES, but I've never played it, so I don't know. I'm just assuming, but I will say though, to get more into positives, one thing I love about this game is it reminds me, and this is a weird connection, but it kind of reminds me of the original Star Wars trilogy, and to a certain extent the sequel trilogy. This world is very futuristic. It's cyberpunk namesake, but it feels so lived in. Like, yes, there's lots of neon lights, and yes, there's lots of fancy stuff, but it still feels dirty and grimy, and I love games like that. It's a very it reminds me of Mass Effect as well. It's a very mature sci-fi, and that's kind of becoming my favorite kind of game. Is mature sci-fi. Like yeah, there's sci-fi, but mature sci-fi takes it to like this whole other level, I think.
I got a really weird vibe from this game, not in a bad way, but when you first kind of go out on the street and there was the gameplay of this like coming out of your apartment, for whatever reason, it reminded me of Toronto. I don't know why. When I walked out onto the street, I'm like, I'm getting some Toronto vibes right now for some reason.
I could see that.
But like in a good way, like in a good way and a bad way, because the city was dirty and there was people everywhere and there's a food stand and like the city is just busy. There's cars going by, there's skyscrapers everywhere, and I guess you could probably say the same on any big city. Toronto's just the one that's closest to us, obviously. But I was just like, it just reminds me of Toronto, like a futuristic Toronto, which is I don't know. It kind of gave me like a little like chill down my spine. I'm like, oh, this could be the future, man. Weird.
On that point, I do like how the is very lively. There's people everywhere.
Yeah, it's packed.
It doesn't feel empty, which is a nice touch, because this could have so easily have been kind of like an open world game, but it doesn't feel very worldly, I guess you could say. Like it's not populated, but it's certainly populated. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's
and that's it. So that's the episode. No, I'm joking. God, there's so much good about this game, despite all the negatives. Like I agree with Harley. We did harp on it pretty good, but this game is awesome.
It needed to be harped on. It did.
Yeah.
So,
no game is safe from harping.
That's right.
Except for Halo. Halo 3 is like perfect in every single
the mission Cortana is not great. You're going down buttholes, but
it's perfect. So, anyway, enough about Halo.
From my perspective, I'm going to quickly go over a couple bullet points here. On what I'm playing on, the game looks beautiful. It looks really, really good, and I'm very, very excited for the next gen patch, because I'm not even playing the next gen version. Like, so like
your graphics are like what I'm playing at. It's just you have like the FPS and loading. Am I right?
Well, it's also the Xbox One X version, so like it still just looks better, but it's not the next gen kind of version of it. So when the next gen patch comes out, it's gonna run more like a high end PC. So
like 4K kind of stuff.
Yeah, like 4K and like all like the bells and whistles turned on kind of thing. I don't know if ray tracing's in there. It actually might be. But yeah, right now the only thing next gen about it is 60 FPS and the fast loading.
Okay.
But otherwise, Xbox One X, it does just look better anyways because of that, since it's running on that. But yeah, this game looks really, really cool. The music is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the music. The radio.
The radios are great, and
like,
just like the non-radio
original
music,
soundtrack.
like just the soundtrack is just great too.
Oh yeah, the score.
Yeah. It was.
I'm just gonna ask a question. Like, what kind of how are you playing this game? Like, what kind of style?
Well, I guess we can
Are you
start
like
with
shooter. Are you like shooter? Are you stealth? Brawling?
I'm kind of doing a bit of everything right now. I'm doing a bit of stealth where I can. I do a little bit of brawling. Like sometimes when I run out of ammo, I just run at them with my fists rather than reload.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm doing a good amount of shooting, mostly with pistols. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm enjoying how the freedom of it. Like where it's kind of like you put your points wherever you want, and you can do, you can use whatever you want, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Gives you kind of like that open, like Skyrim-esque. Well, pretty much any RPG.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
really enjoying it.
The perk kind of like
stealth and
yeah, the perk and like skill tree thing is really cool. Like it's almost like there's so much there. How are you guys playing? Like, did you choose? I don't think this would be a spoiler really for anybody, but like, what was your background? Did you go corpo, nomad, street kid? What did you guys do?
Harley, what did you do? Because I've had different ones for all 3 times I've tried playing.
I went street kid.
What'd you do, Tony?
Corpo.
That's funny. So on the playthrough on PC right now, I've done corpo as well. So one thing I think's pretty cool. I'm gonna assume the third option is the same, but the one thing I think is pretty cool is that no matter how you start this story, like you get to the same spot eventually. Like they all kind of eventually reach a certain point, and then the game officially starts. I guess you could say that's not a spoiler, but I like how they begin different. When I started the corpo playthrough, I was expecting it to kind of be like, okay, so you start here again, like in the Street Kid one, but no, like it's totally different. And I had like an oh my god moment, like a really good happy oh my god moment. I was like, I can't wait to start another one with like have 3 save files going eventually down the road once I'm like far enough and beat it. Because I do plan on playing this game multiple times through, at least 3 times because of the 3 different starts. But that's
Yeah.
one thing this game
We have
does so
multiple
well.
playthroughs too.
Yeah, like player choice and games like this, like Dishonored, like Deus Ex. I love games that just kind of give you the keys to the city. Do you know what I mean? Like it's cool that you can like, because like you were saying, you're kind of doing everything, Tony. You gun here, you brawl here. Harley, I can't remember what you said, but I'm totally just using handguns right now. Like I use the katana the odd time, but I don't use it too often. But it's so satisfying, all the different ways I've played so far.
I'm planning on doing a second playthrough when the next gen patch comes out. That's kind of my plan. So I'm gonna go through this one now, and then when the next gen patch comes out, I will do another one, either with Nomad or Street Kid.
It's cool how it's a different beginning for each background.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I also like how those conversation voices come up pretty often too.
yeah, it
It's
feels
not
like it
just
matters.
like pick your background and just yeah, right?
Yeah,
Like it's not just thrown to the wind. It's not just like a flavor thing. It kind of makes a difference.
yeah, man, it's cool, and it almost like shapes how you play, in my opinion. Like I've been kind of acting like a corporate jackass in my playthrough,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like, what would my guy say? Well, he came from this background, so he'd probably say this, you know, but
Yeah, I've been doing like street rules kind of stuff.
yeah.
Nice.
And then if you go Nomad, you can be Larry the Cable Guy. There you go.
You're done. My picture's Max Payne now, but I should have changed it back to Larry the Cable Guy for this episode.
You can probably make a pretty good Larry the Cable Guy in that game.
Yeah, you probably could.
Character
So speaking of
customization is
that-
deep.
Exactly. So how long did you guys take on all 3 characters? I'm not lying when I say this. I was about 25 to 30 minutes each character, because there's so much you can tinker and like look through. And I'm so picky when it comes to character customization in general. Like I am super picky with this stuff. Are you guys super picky, or you guys just kind of
I'm usually
everything on?
like first go. If I'm trying to just like, I'm not trying to like meme it. I'm usually kind of picky. Yeah, I
What do
like
you
to get
think?
the right hairstyle, and everything like that.
Yeah, I tinkered for probably 45 minutes. Just getting it
Yeah,
to
I'd
what I
probably
wanted
say
to.
half an hour for myself.
It's like
And, like, I didn't think I
everything
would spend
too.
that long.
Like you can change your
Like,
dick
it's
size.
crazy.
It's crazy, man.
All right.
Like literally
Weird.
everything. You can have female parts as a guy and guy parts as a female. You can do whatever you want. Like it's
You
Or
can
not
have
at
a woman's
all.
voice as a man, or
You
vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool, man.
it's super
It's
in depth.
completely open.
Yeah. One thing I did read, and I'm not sure if this is true, but I think it is. You can't change your hairstyle once you choose it.
Yeah, I
Like
read
there's
that
no
too.
there's no like barber shop, which I think is bizarre. But
That is pretty bizarre.
I wonder if they'll patch that
You
in or
get
something.
hats and stuff like that, but that's not the same thing.
It's
though.
not. I think it's really weird that you can't change your hair. Like why is there no barber shop? I don't know. That seems like a really obvious thing.
CD Projekt Red, if you're listening, because I looked at the map for a good 10 minutes at every little icon and did not see a pair of scissors like in GTA. Please make an option to change your hairstyle.
No, it'd be cool if you could pay money and just have like a complete change. I wouldn't
Yeah.
put
Or go
that
to Recon
past the
and change it
future.
whenever.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
No, actually,
futuristic.
I don't like that.
I mean, you're getting like cybernetic implants, but you can't change the way you look. I don't know. It'd be cool if
like,
they put that in. I always
I would
like
understand if because like in Deus Ex you can't do that, because at least in the 2 newer ones you're Adam Jensen, like you're the guy, so you can't
him.
change. But it's also not totally like it's okay. This is why I think you guys like would like Deus Ex, specifically the two newer ones that came out, because if you guys like this, those games are right up your alley. But enough about those. I just wanted to get that little point in because I had something to say about the negatives, but I'll say it in my conclusion overall about Deus Ex in this game. But anyway, what do you guys think of the shooting and the combat overall?
Reminds me of Fallout.
Yeah, I get kind of like sometimes a Borderlands Fallout vibe.
That's funny because I was just gonna say I totally got a Borderlands like feel, and in a good way because
Borderlands
Borderlands has
3?
I think has good combat.
Really?
Yeah,
You
like
guys got that
it's
feel?
good. Like
It
I don't know
did.
why, but
That's weird.
I thought, yeah,
I think
I don't know.
Borderlands plays way better than this game in terms of combat.
Oh,
To me, it feels
Tony,
way more like a
we're done with the
traditional.
negatives.
Oh,
Okay.
the
No, it's not.
gunplay.
It's not a bad thing. It's just a different. It's a different
I'm
kind of
just
game.
joking,
To
I
me,
know.
it feels like an RPG. It doesn't feel like a shooter. That's,
I was talking about specifically the gunplay.
Yeah,
but even
Kind of
that,
reminds me of Borderlands.
it feels very Fallout to me, like playing Fallout and shooting people in Fallout.
do you guys have the damage numbers on or off?
do.
I took them off.
Have them on.
Yeah, I didn't even know you could change that.
Yeah, it's in the I think it's on the Xbox version, but it's on the PC one too anyway. So I like the first couple times playing it, I'm like, this is super weird. Like I'm trying to be like this game is super immersive, which is awesome. I'm not saying as a negative, it's super immersive. But the one thing that when I saw it, at least on my second time, or no, the PC, sorry, when I got on PC, I was like, you know what, I gotta turn this off because like I'm trying to like immerse myself in this world, and I see like little numbers pop up all the time, and I'm like, it's almost taken me out of it. It's not a bad thing at all, but to spin that into a positive though, I love just walking around in this game and looking around Night City. Like it's just like dripping with atmosphere. And like even like on my first playthrough, like on the Xbox version, I bet you I spent about 5-ish minutes just walking around. At least on the Street Kid version, you start off in a bar. So I walked around that bar for a good 5 minutes just
yeah.
looking at everything before I even talked to the person you're supposed to talk to. And I was
I
like,
probably
oh my
took 10
god.
minutes.
I was like,
Exploring
I
the
am
entire
just like,
place,
I'm totally enthralled like right away.
picking up all the little junk that's everywhere.
Yeah.
On that note, I got the like the scavenger perks or whatever.
Too,
So like my junk automatically disassembles and I get more components from it every time I do it. So I'm kind of going
Ooh,
that
have
route
to-
where I want to make a bunch of stuff. So
The crafting is pretty cool too.
yeah,
Like you can upgrade weapons.
yeah,
So like if you really like a gun, you don't have to ditch it for whatever, just a higher level. You can just upgrade it.
yeah. And there's like iconic weapons, I think they're called too. So like there's
Yeah.
weapons where like they're already a base high stat, but like you can upgrade them practically to go with you through the entire game. Like they will never be, I guess, out of date or underpowered. You could always power them up, which I think is cool.
Yeah, as long as you have the materials.
Which is why I got those perks, because I'm like, ooh, I wanna do a bunch of cool stuff later on with all this stuff. So
I haven't
Funny.
been able
I
to
haven't
upgrade
crafted
it.
anything or upgraded anything yet. That's kind of funny.
I've upgraded, just not. I haven't like made something new. There's
I
like so many things to explore in this game, like so many
Yeah.
ways.
feel like I've just scratched the surface.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like we've all played about 6 hours ish in and
6
around
hours.
there, and I still feel like I'm barely halfway from like totally getting a grip on this game because again, like 6 hours in, there's still like some tutorial messages popping up, and like
Yeah.
I guess it
I
depends
still
on how
feel like
fast
I'm in
you
the
move through stuff.
prologue.
Yeah,
I have-
like it's crazy,
I
man.
haven't gone through
Yep.
prologue yet. I
Yep.
feel.
Yeah, man, it's great. I'm pleasantly, I guess not surprised, but like, I don't know what the word for it is. Maybe like appeased. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
I'm
yeah,
I'm
I guess
happy
I
with
think
it.
it's a way of looking at it.
Like I'm very happy with it. I'm
I would-
not disappointed and I'm not like blown away, but it's hard to be blown away because my expectations were so high. So far they're meeting my really high expectations, I would say.
Yeah, there was so much hype behind this game.
Yeah.
And hype can kill a game, and I'm glad yeah, like there is press about the issues with it, but I think the actual content of the game I think is superb. Like it's like my expectations are pretty high too, and I guess most of my expectations or at least half of them, I'll say, they kind of come from me, not intentionally, but kind of comparing it to the Deus Ex games. But this game is like totally up there with those games so far, anyway. Unless it takes a huge dive at some point, but like so far, like this game is,
Or it gets better.
yeah, like that's what I mean. Like it could dive up or it could dive down. I don't know. I'm having a really good time with it though so far.
For me,
Any other like glaring positives that you guys can think of?
this is kind of a positive, I guess, maybe, and a bit of a negative if you look at it that way. But for me, it's really hard for me to put it down. So for me, it's like I can't just jump in and play for an hour or like 30 minutes. You know, like when I go and play Cyberpunk, I want to play for like 6 hours or like at least a couple hours. You know what I mean? So I guess that's a positive because it makes me want to stay and like keep on doing things. But the negative is like I almost feel like I need to like schedule time to play it. You know, it's like, okay, when do I have like 3 hours where I could just sit down and play this game? Because I don't want to just play for half an hour because I'll be left like oh, I wish I could have played more kind of thing. You know, like I need to dedicate big chunks of time to it, which is, I guess, is a good thing and a bad thing.
It's a very good like job interview question, or a job interview answer, I should say.
It's like the what's your greatest, like what's your biggest weakness thing. I guess I'm just too awesome. So I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that's actually, never say that to anyone. Don't say that in a job interview. Pro tip. But yeah, that's kind of my last point I had about it, is that it's so good and it's so awesome that I just want to play it all the time, and I want to play it for long amounts of time. And if I feel like I shouldn't play it for like only half an hour at a time because I won't get enough out of it.
Like you can definitely do a lot in one sitting, but like today when I was getting frustrated with the Xbox One version, when I eventually switched, it was like I played for like half an hour and then I'd stop and I'd be like, oh, it's so slow, this and that, blah blah blah. Which like there's no, like, again, there's no wrong way of playing this game. It's the same base game on all platforms. It's just a matter of the performance, I guess. But I lost my point, to be honest. Harley, anything else you have to say positive about this game, or just anything at all you want to say about Cyberpunk? I don't feel like
I've
we've really
enjoyed
gotten
the
enough into our
story so
positive.
far. I'm really enjoying the story so far, and yeah, I like the open worldness. I like the RPG. It's kind of just like a game that's like right down my alley.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I kind of feel that way too about this game. I
yeah.
know
It's
we
like
all like
I
movies.
want to do all the side stuff too. Like, I'm usually not the person that will just like will rush like a main story. Probably like stick around and do all this like little stuff. Like I think today I was playing, and just like for an hour I was just walking around the city. You know how there's like little pockets of like racketeers or like gang members like just doing like odd stuff. I just go do that and stuff like that. And I just walk around, shoot some guys, do like little side quests, you know.
Hack some ATMs.
Yeah. Oh,
Get
I
some
didn't know you could do that.
get some cash. Yeah, you can do that.
Ooh.
It's like Watch Dogs now. Ooh, and I have to play Watch Dogs.
I guess they're not
but,
ATMs because it's all digital, but yeah, you can hack into them and like, yeah, transfer money to your account, which is cool.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we talked about the negatives way more than the positives, but like it's not to say that's obviously we like the game a lot, and I think to put it shortly, like the game is so awesome that we just want to play it more, and it's hard to really say more than that, you know.
yeah,
I hope that the negatives get
forgot about
fixed,
dinner, man.
because all of the negatives certainly aren't great, especially from a kind of base PS4, Xbox One perspective. But yeah, this game's awesome, man. My first impressions are super, super positive.
Yeah. Glitches and all that aside, like it's not stopping me from playing the game.
That's a sign of a good game.
I was gonna say that's a sign of a pretty good game.
Anything else, guys? I think we're good here.
I think you
I
said
think
it
so.
best, to be honest, when you're saying like it's so easy to talk about the negatives, but like as a whole, I think it's safe to say we all love this game. Like it's almost hard to point out the positives because there's almost like there's a lot to say, and it's kind of hard to sit here and think of like every little thing. but I think the game is very wonderful. It's all the characters I've run into so far are all great. Like everybody's memorable. The voice acting's pretty good. Um, but yeah, again, just like issues aside, this game is super fun. It's super deep. It's almost like it's going to take hours and hours and hours to even just kind of get to like the actual meat of the game, which is a really cool feeling because some games they kind of unwrap everything really early on, and then the rest of the game is kind of a slog. But this game, it's probably going to feel like you're constantly unwrapping a gift, and there's so much excitement and anticipation to see what's underneath that you just want to keep unwrapping it. And I think that's kind of the best way I can put the game for me is I just want to keep playing it because I just want to see what this game's all about. Like there's so much to this game. It's kind of, and even like I said, we all played 6 hours. I don't think 6 hours was maybe even enough to even get like a solid first impression based on how big it is. But I'm super happy. I forgot about eating dinner tonight. That's how much I was playing it. Like we usually record at 8 o'clock ish on Friday nights, and it was like 7:45, and then I look at the time and I was like, oh my god, I haven't eaten dinner yet, and I was talking about dinner at like 5 o'clock. So I mean, I guess that's also a sign of a good game too. You forget all your basic needs, but regardless,
I did the same thing. I ate lunch at like 4. I was like, oh crap, it's 4 o'clock. I need to eat something.
Yeah, like playing this game, like you lose sense of time.
and I
Yeah.
think I like that though, like because sometimes like time flies when you're
Yeah.
having fun, right?
Exactly.
Sitting here talking with you guys and how great it is, it makes me want to play more. Right? So,
Yeah.
also the sign of a good game. Hopefully the next 6 hours and every 6 hours after that is just as good as the first 6 hours.
That's a great way to put it, and I think that's a great way to end this topic. Obviously, not everybody who watches this is gonna have Cyberpunk, but what do you guys think of Cyberpunk, or are you excited to get it? Is there anything that excites you about it? Just what do you think in general about Cyberpunk? So if you want to let us know, leave your thoughts in the comment section about the topic of this week, and we'll read them on the next episode of the show if you want your voice heard. If you want to stay up to date with Follow My Tracers, be sure to subscribe to us right here on YouTube. Click the bell if you want to be notified when we go live. You can also follow us on Twitter at FMT Show and on Facebook at Follow My Tracers. Tony, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Figure9TV and twitch.tv/Figure09. If you can give me a follow there, I'd really appreciate it.
Harley, do you want to plug your Xbox? Do you want to plug anything? Do you want to plug Cyberpunk? Do you want to plug what you ate for dinner? Anything you want to plug?
No, I'm good.
Beautiful. Well, until next time, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the support. We are Follow My Tracers, and I hope you guys have a good one. Guys and gals, everybody.
We'll see everyone next week.
Have a good one. Bye.